Yo, call me a Sonic announcement the way you know that I'm going to crouch today. Everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Games Kids. Today, and only today, we are here to talk about, that's right, the next Sonic game reveal. You know, it's also been 2 weeks since our last news update on stuff, so I figured we'd yap a little bit about, you know, some rumors that have popped up and why I think if a mainline Sonic game is going to happen this year, it's going to be announced on this month. So let's get started, right? I have officially joined the camp that, you know, I've been hopeful that we're going to get a mainline game announced this year, some substantial game announced, but I have sort of accepted in my mind, right, that if a mainline Sonic game, like a 3D main new Sonic game is not announced by the end of this month, it is not coming out this year. Right, I think it still has a chance to be announced and released this year because, you know, it's weird. It's funny, with Sonic games, we don't have a clear timetable, right? But when we think about the last few announcements, right, Sonic Racing CrossWorlds was announced in December, released in September. That was about a 9-month, you know, marketing cycle. Then you have Sonic X Shadow Generations, which was announced in February, right, that year, and it came out about 8 months later. It was in October. So they tend to now, like the last 2 years, I'm just going by in the modern era, they have tended to lean towards a 8 to 9 month period between announce and release. Now, the shortest announcement cycle we had recently was Sonic Superstars, which was announced at Summer in Summer Games Fest and then came out October. So it was about like a 5-month gap. But obviously, you can tell the difference there in terms of marketing and how, in terms of like, you know, how they treated the game, in terms of its growth and everything. But obviously, you know, the Game Awards came and went and people were really expecting an announcement there, and it didn't happen. You know, just, you know, point blank, a lot of people were, all of us, including myself, were really thinking it was going down just because Jeff Keighley is locked in those announcements. But there are multiple new spots that game could be announced, and we're going to talk about those possibilities. Let's start with option number 1, right? Option 1 is a Nintendo Direct, right? Now, so for those of you that don't know, the big rumor / prediction is that we are getting a partner showcase, a Nintendo Direct partner showcase this week, actually on the 5th. And you know, typically the third-party Nintendo showcases just go over third parties. You know, it's not first-party stuff. And this is the interesting one, right? Because people have had this theory for a while that, like, oh, you know, Nintendo is back to not, you know, liking Sonic. He has been in the last few Directs. That's not necessarily the case, right? They have clearly had a marketing deal with PlayStation. We'll talk about obviously where they could show up next after, but I don't think there is this weird vendetta between Nintendo and Sega that people think of. If you think about it, Sega was at the forefront of the Switch 2 launch. You know, they had Yakuza 0 on launch, they had like Puyo Puyo upgrades, they had the Sonic X Shadow Generations upgrade. You know, they had all that shit ready for Nintendo Switch 2 at launch. It's very clear that they were working very closely alongside Sega. Persona 3 Reload came out in the fall. You know, there's plans to announce more Yakuza games for Nintendo Switch. So it's very clear that no matter what, we just got the upgrade for CrossWorlds on Switch 2. So no matter what, there is clearly a relationship between Sega and Nintendo. Now, what are the odds it shows up in the partner showcase? I think it's a 50-50, right? The last Sonic game to appear in a Nintendo Direct was Sonic Superstars, which now is, what, 3 years old in 2026? But I guess, you know, we're still early in the year. So I'll go with about 2.5 years, right, since we last saw a Sonic game in a Direct. And then the time before that was in a Nintendo Direct Mini, where they actually showed a Sonic Frontiers gameplay trailer. And funny enough, everybody was like going crazy because I was like, oh my God, this trailer is showing way more than IGN did or anything. So there is a chance that Sonic does make an appearance this Thursday at a Nintendo Direct. That would be a big deal. And, you know, obviously there is history with Nintendo. They might want it to be a big Switch 2 reveal. Dude, and I'm sure a lot of you feel this way, right? I pray that next Sonic game is not on Switch 1, right? You know, a lot of the rumors back in the day, you know, when Frontiers came in, you know, maybe you could let me know if that's not the case, but I'm pretty sure it is the case, because they didn't make a different version of Frontiers for the initial Switch. They had to downscale and work around that console as well, and so that's why you had a lot of the pop-in issues that the game has. You know, it's because they had to basically optimize for a lot of hardware, and I don't even think this is just a Sonic problem. This is just a problem with the games industry we are seeing right now. You know, because there are way too many units sold of PS4s out there and Switches out there, that it's hard for these companies to just want to let go when there's such like a big amount of money, you know. But like, you know, especially for PS5 sakes, like PS5's been out for like what, almost 5 years now. Like, it is time to sunset things coming on to the PS4 and other units. And I really do hope that Sega takes that leap also with the next Sonic game. You know, whether they make a different version for Switch 1, making that a cloud version so that, you know, the next Sonic game could be on Switch 2. I just think that there is still a chance that it does show up at this partner showcase. And, you know, that's obviously my big prayer and hope that, you know, this theory that, you know, Nintendo and Sega don't get along anymore, Sonic, is put to rest. And there's a big chance that it's like the big reveal of this partner showcase, because despite how some people might feel about Sonic, it is a big deal for a mainline Sonic game to be announced at a presentation. Option 2, which is including rumor number 2, state of play, right? State of play, there is a rumor that we're getting a state of play within the next week or two, and, you know, it would line up because there is always an early year state of play. It's funny, all these companies kind of have like a routine slash pattern, right? Xbox just had like their developer direct where they showed, you know, Forza and all their racing stuff, right? Nintendo's been just dropping news left and right. They dropped like the Mario Galaxy trailer, they dropped Mario Tennis, they dropped Mario plus Bell Park and all this stuff, and now, you know, people are waiting for the big PlayStation. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I think this is the big one, right? I really do think this is the big one. If it's going to be revealed in February, I do think the biggest, most likely scenario is it's going to be here, right? It is super clear that there was and I don't know if it's done yet or not, there is a marketing deal between Sonic and PlayStation, right? If you look back at the last, I want to say about 2.5 years, it's just been the case, right? Not only did the state of play reveal Sonic X Shadow Generations, which, you know, that was like full reveal. It wasn't like tease that Game Awards and showing you, like they just straight up revealed Sonic Shadow Gens, right? Then they then announced the DLC for Shadow Generations, the Keanu one, right? They even had this commercial about, you know, like feel the controller with the haptics of the PS5 within the controller, right? They even went on to reveal the gameplay for Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, right? Initially announced at the Game Awards, but then the gameplay was revealed at a state of play. The beta for CrossWorlds is also PlayStation exclusive initially, and to the point where we got the Mega Man DLC trailer in a state of play, and then later in the year we got the reveal of II, Tangle Whisper, and Knights all coming to the game, all within a state of play. So it's very clear that, you know, there is some kind of relationship, partnership with PlayStation, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I do think that's kind of smart. I think after the Wii U era slash, you know, Nintendo Switch, I think Sonic Team kind of wanted to shift away from maybe, you know, the younger people crowd that like was sort of what they were going for around that era when they did that big deal with Nintendo in the Wii U era with Lost World, the Sonic Boom games. So I think tapping into that more mature quote unquote audience, the older audience, and going with PlayStation is probably the smartest move, even though it would make sense in a you know, Nintendo presentation, because, you know, it is still a family friendly brand. And I've had some people like speculate and say that, you know, what if this is just, they're just gonna show the next Sonic Racing CrossWorlds DLC? I don't know. I mean, we still have some things to go through before, you know, you need to show me the next lineup of DLC characters and stuff, right? Like, they still have Mega Man to release, right? That we've seen footage of, we've already seen a teaser of, and we still have II and Tangle Whisper. We still have II to release and Tangle Whisper that haven't released yet. So I don't think they need to show the next wave of characters yet. I feel like they could go a little bit longer without showing them, you know, in a state of play, unless they are about to do a big blowout where they're like, hey, season 2 of content is here. Not season 2, but like, you know, more free content is on the way. Obviously, they could do that in a Twitter post, but like I said, I think between the reveal of Sonic Shadow Gens, the massive marketing they had with CrossWorlds, it's clear they have a deal with PlayStation, and your biggest likelihood of seeing one is going to be at a state of play, buddy. Last but not least, Sonic Central. Sonic Central is like kind of the biggest question mark. I mean, like, Sonic Centrals are not consistent enough to have a pattern, right? I think we've gotten 3 of them over the last few years. We didn't get one at all last year, and you know, they've appeared at different dates. You know, one of them has been around Sonic's birthday, one of them has been in September, one of them has been in May. Like, they're not really consistent of when they've taken place, and honestly, they haven't even been consistent in their quality, right? Sometimes they're like 10 minutes, half of them are ads. You know, I still think they like kind of peaked at the first one, and that's not even saying too much because they showed Sonic Colors Origins Remaster, they announced they announced Sonic Colors Ultimate, they announced Sonic Origins, and then they teased the next mainline 3D Sonic game, which would end up being Sonic Frontiers. So I think in substantial news, that was probably the biggest one, you know, because the ones that were years after, like I think the next one they did was that awful one where it was all ads, and then it ended with like, hey, there's Lego Sonic in Superstars, right? And then the year after, I guess you could say, like, you know, was pretty notable where they showed a Shadow Gens trailer, which was pretty awesome. But then it kind of ended on like, hey, we're working on Sonic Movie 3. Cool, I guess. Obviously, we have a 35th anniversary in the midst of our palms right here, and there's a lot of news that they could get into, whether it's marketing deals, whether it's new products, whether it is new games. There is a lot they can do to take the conversation themselves and dedicate an entire presentation to Sonic. If anything, I'm not gonna lie to you, this would be the ideal world to me. I mean, in my perfect world, it is a Sonic Central, and it is just like, hey, we are ready to talk about the future of Sonic the Hedgehog, right? You know, and they can announce multiple projects here, announce what they're doing for the anniversary. But again, my issue is just like, I don't know what they want to do with Sonic Central anymore, nor do I even know if they're gonna host it. Would they want to save it for anniversary day like in June? Like, I don't know. All I know is for certain, if we don't get that next mainline game announced here within these 3 presentations in February, I don't think we're getting a mainline game. Now, of course, this could lead to multiple spin-off games. In fact, we still have some rumors / leaks to go through. Thing number 1 to talk about is that the official English Sonic website just kind of shut down. So all, you know, the Sonic websites and all that stuff just linked to a blank page here that is just Sonic the Hedgehog based. So it is a little weird, a little random. Some people think it could be nothing, but others believe, you know, it could be them ramping up. But something I love to do, and it's one of my favorite activities to do, and that is read fake potential leaks. Because here's the thing, right? We can call these leaks fake all we want, but let's listen. Some people forget this shit. Sonic Frontiers leaks were happening way before that game came out, and no one believed shit. They were all talking about a ghost girl flying around, how you were fighting like a giant Shadow of the Colossus, like being in a supersonic battle. Like, those things about that game ended up being true. So while I don't always believe these rumors, it's fun to at least check them out to even see if, hey, maybe there's a smidge of a chance. Now, I've read a few of them on previous videos you can check out, but these are the latest that have gone around, and I figured, you know, we'd go ahead and read this and see what's the vibe with this. What are they saying? Hello, Fidel from the future here. Some breaking news happened literally the day after I recorded the video. Thank God I didn't drop it when I did, because a leak has now become a little bit more credible. So for those of you that watched the latest Chaotix Case Files episodes, or if you didn't, something pretty massive happened at the end over here. So listen to this right here.
We're about to get to a really good part involving a couple of friends of ours, Tangle and Whisper.
So massive drop right there. That's right, on the Chaotix Case Files, which is this audio drama they've been doing. They literally are saying that we're gonna see Tangle and Whisper next week, which means we are finally getting a voice for Tangle. Now, for those that don't know, Whisper in the comics doesn't talk too much. She's pretty quiet, so we might not hear her, but at the very least, we're gonna hear Tangle. Now, the reason why this is important is because there was a leak that we read a while ago that sort of alluded to this, and we might straight up find out the answer to this by next week. We will know if this leak is legit or not. So this leak said next game is Sonic Eclipse, stars Sonic, Shadow, Silver, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy as the playable roster. Features a dimension mechanic. You can switch between the real world and the Eclipse dimension. Sage returns, right? Which, you know, we've seen a lot of these rumors of Sonic Eclipse, but here's the part that really, you know, stuck out. A handful of the other Sonic characters are present. NPCs, Big, Blaze, Tangle and Whisper, and Tangle's voice work being provided by Erica Harlacher from what she sounded like. So that is the key right here. If next week, when they drop this episode of Chaotix Case Files, and we find out the announcement that Erica is providing the voice of Tangle, then boom, we might have a case here for an actual legitimate leak. Now, I did see someone on social media point out that Erica does work for the company that works on Sonic's dubbing and voice work, so it could just be like a smartass pick, but I don't know. That is a very specific pick in there, which, you know, it doesn't mean this is real, but it would lead credence to this one. So I guess it might as well, we might as well read the rest of it just cause, you know. So CrossWorlds will be featured at a State of Play, which, you know, is rumored to be later this month. TMNT and Avatar will be shown off, as well as Billy Hatcher, Akira, and Elise Brangman from Phantasy Star Online. The Dappa Travel Pass will be shown off too, features extra tracks, and CrossWorlds, Mementos, Press Garden, and the Algo System are among some of the tracks shown, but it's a quick teaser. Literally runs off the reveal of Alice with a "wait, where are we?" line from Sonic right after the ring sends them to Mementos. So voice acting for Sega characters and possibly the paid DLC is being discussed. A second character pack is also in development. Sanrio and DC Comics are in talks for characters. I'm pretty sure Sony shut them down for Astrobot and Square shut them down for Chocobo Racer, which is a little upsetting. I'm wondering if the Astrobot shutdown might be because the game is on PlayStation and they kind of don't want Astro maybe on Nintendo consoles yet. Like maybe they're trying to be a little bit reserved with that character before opening the, you know, the canon to Astro being on Xbox and PC and other places before its full run is done on PlayStation. So I could kind of see that. And then Unleashed getting a remaster is what they're saying. Amy is the playable extra character and has a few open world segments in the various cities. There's some non-game media planned. The same studio that did the Shadow Gens and CrossWorlds animation is doing a full-length 15-episode anime set right before Eclipse, which this would literally, like, it make me explode. Like, genuinely, I would literally spontaneously combust. And, you know, Daniel RPK, who, while kind of just says a lot of shit just to say shit, has gotten a lot of things right about movies. I mean, he clearly knows stuff about the movie industry. He did recently say that, yeah, they are working on a Sonic animated project. And so this could be that, and they are saying first announcement at the State of Play, and then the Sonic Central comes later for, I guess, what would be Sonic Eclipse, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I thought I would add that in because, yeah, that new Chaotix thing, getting the voice of Tangle, including this voice here, we'll know over here. So we've got Sega is preparing for the Sonic 35th anniversary. With this next mainline game, Sega has been publicly quiet about this new Sonic game, but behind the scenes, this game has already been revealed during investors meetings and even to some content creators who have been dropping small hints of what's coming in streams or social media. These said creators have been sharing a little bit of info around and even screenshots of said game. So here's what's known so far. So first of all, this screenshot is bullshit. This is literally just the text box from Shadow Gens, and they're in some random ass modded area. I don't think this is actually an in-game screenshot. So already you've kind of lost me there. But again, I'll entertain it. Let's see what they got. The cast of this game is the same as Sonic Dream Team. So Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Rouge, and Shadow. All right, so we've already got a ridiculous amount of characters, which I don't think is happening. The story follows up where Frontiers ended, where everybody goes their own way to have a solo adventure. As time passed, Sage tells Eggman that the ancients had a hidden island called Avila somewhere in the earth, but the only way to locate it is with the Master Emerald. The island is held by some purplish black emerald power, which Eggman tries to use but ends the emerald destroying itself into shards, which makes up multiple monsters in the island. Each character aside from Sonic has their own introduction via animated cinematics that will explain how they arrived on the island and will be published on social media. Okay, so they're going with the classic, you know, this is very safe. You know, my thing is already like, okay, there's a pretty safe plot, you know, floating island. This is vague enough to, you know, be whatever, but we'll see. You know, the island, each character aside from Sonic has their own introduction. Yeah, we read that. The island in concept is like Themyscira, as in being a hidden island. The island itself is a mix of multiple themes, going like jungle, snowy mountains, deserts, forests, seaside, and a cloudy zone. Think of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet map, but being all in just one open zone. Don't do that. If you tell me this is like Scarlet and Violet, you've already you've already lost me mentally. You've already hurt my feelings. I don't want to deal with this, right? Sonic is not aware of his friends being here, so you will find them every time you go to different zones on the map while progressing in the story. No new models, just some small edits and tweaks and some texture changes seen in games like Lost World or Force. Unironically, that's probably the most believable part about this, right? That's funny enough. The most believable thing about this is that they would not make new models and they would just update them. So far, pretty safe. I'm not mad at it, right? Again, another like bullshit screenshot, so I am already not believing this, but let's see. The island is alive with villages and NPCs around that you can find who will give you items or reputation. The better your reputation is, the more rewards you can get. The game sometimes relies on decision making, so you decide to not help a village or fail an objective. It can lead to small changes in the island while you progress. See, I don't know, man. That doesn't sound like something they would do in a Sonic game. I'm not mad at the idea of this, but I don't. It feels very. I don't know. It doesn't strike me as something they would do in a Sonic game where they'd have that thing of like, oh, if you fumble, things are going to change, right? Let's see what's next. The game still uses boosts like Frontiers or Shadow Gens, but with the inclusion of the spin dash being a gameplay like Speed Simulator. This is just the most common thing we've seen in all of these leaks, right? Is that like, hey, they're not going to rely on boosts. You're going to spin dash. You're going to use your momentum, which, again, it's probably the case, but it is funny that like this is just kind of like an easy thing to just say because that's kind of like the feedback that Kishimoto gave the most when he was, giving his replies to people about the future of the series. So boosts through the island, completing puzzles, collecting items, and doing some speed platforming. There are still things like springs and platforms scattered through the island, but not like Frontiers. The structure of this open zone is more akin to Shadow Gens, being built on the island instead of being random platforms in the sky. Okay. Moveset in this game has been changed. While you have a boost, spin dash, and combat just like the previous game, you also have moves like ledge grab, bounce, parkour, super pila, and a flying kick. Okay. Pretty safe so far. Multiple playable characters are back, but not in the same way as people would like. You can only play with them during certain times in the story, like in the Final Horizon, which I'm not gonna lie to you, regardless if this is real or fake, again, these are fun for discussion. These just create a conversation, which is what I like to open up. I would actually prefer this. I would prefer if the next mainline game isn't, hey, just randomly swap to, whoever you want, whenever. I would like if it was like, all right, like, hey, now go see what this character's doing. Like, let's go. Kind of like Sonic Adventure 2 style a little bit, where like, hey, you spend some time with Sonic, then you go to Knuckles, you go to Tails. Let me know what you guys would prefer. Would you rather prefer you kind of pick each character's storyline and do what you must, or would you rather it be sort of like, again, adventure-like style where after a certain story thing, boom, you're swapped to someone else? So let's see what's next. Open zone boost works like Frontiers. So to fight enemies, use combat, while on the linear levels, your boost leads damage. Open zone boost refills along, while in linear levels, you need rings. The spin dash works like the drop dash rule in Frontiers with physics and replace the slide. While at it, if you press L2 with a full boost gauge, it will do a dash or a small boost just like Lost World or Frontiers, but it won't drain all the boost gauge. So it works like the boost and Unleash of the Wii. Okay. Again, pretty safe stuff. Let's see it. It keeps going apparently. Apparently this is that deep. By the way, again, these screenshots are beyond fake, bro. I'm telling you, like, this is, I don't know. I mean, maybe, but I doubt it. I also doubt the thing where they say like content creators have gotten to play it. I don't know, man. I haven't seen a soul or a whisper about it, but we could be wrong. Let's read this last page though, it's just to entertain it. Sonic has an ability similar to Shadow Gen's Doom Morph, where he can swing onto something specific using poles or a bound ring. I mean, I like the idea of Sonic, having like a pole tether, that there's certain areas in the level where there's like poles, you can maybe tether to them, do some flips to get to a different spot. That's cool. That would be a fun extra gimmick in linear levels to sort of like make you think, oh, there's a pole I can grab onto. Whiplash up there, sort of how like he has the whiplash in Sonic Boom. The combat of this game is more of an upgrade to the Final Horizons characters combat, being more button mashy and combo based rather than doing a mini cinematic, which makes sense. Side loop is replaced with a wind tornado power. This feels very on the nose, but sure. Items like speed shoes or heal rings are things in this game, and you can't get them by progressing or via a store like Sonic Chronicles. They work similar to Lost World item slots. These can be used for both combat or traversing, which I don't believe that one bit. Trick system is back from Frontiers, and you can customize it with pre-made poses or custom poses too. It works just like Frontiers when you boost through around. I will say that's a fire idea. If you could like from a menu like have a set of cool Sonic poses and you could select like the 5 that you can cycle through tricks, I would love that, because that'd be so cool, because everybody has like their different favorite Sonic poses and moves, and then obviously, you know, you could picture it yourself, like you go in photo mode, you could choose different poses he does. I think that's a cool idea regardless of if this is real or not. There are linear levels which you can find via portals that you activate via puzzle minis. Would they really do the portal thing again? Nothing like a little more clever? Like I don't know, I feel like that's maybe too on the nose. The linear levels are mostly themed on the island depending on where you are located, so don't expect them to change much aside from a color palette. This game is meant to launch this year, 2026, and is the reason it did not appear at the Game Awards despite multiple leakers saying it will, is just due to money. Okay, overall this leak, I would give it, you know, it's okay. It's pretty safe. It could be real, but it could also be fake. We do have another classic Sonic Eclipse leak. So Sonic Eclipse is the name. Like, this is the Sonic Rangers of this leak thread where, you know, from the times I've read them to you and to this point on, like, Sonic Eclipse seems to be the name they're going with, right? So a person who I know who works as a janitor at Sega, so this is already fake. I mean, this is why I'm just fucking reading this to read this, bro. It's Sega's headquarters in Irvine told me about a new Sonic game he saw. Believe me or not, I don't care, but if it becomes a reality, we'll see. I trust him. He told me these things. Dude, my favorite thing about fake leaks is when they're just like, believe me or not, I don't care. Like, it's always just like, I get it, man. I know what you're doing. So, new Sonic game. He saw only a short clip and the menu, no gameplay footage seen from him. Why did you have to say janitor? Dude, whatever, I'll just read it for fun. Okay, it's fine. The title looks like the Sonic and the Secret Rings one because it's written in gold and has a really close font used. The game was on a PS5. He told me that the room he saw gameplay had only PS5s. He saw 15 seconds of a clip and it shows a big city with Sonic in it, and it literally ends with Sonic and Dr. Eggman teletransporting, but there it ends without showing where they go. Menu has Sonic watching a city at noon, but the city is distant. Also, only single player and options. As I said, I trust this person as he's a friend of mine, but obviously it's unfinished, so what he said to me could be things which could change later on. I will say, right, this is the second or third time we've heard the city look to it. It's crazy because, you know, we've now read that. So if we're thinking of all the rumors we've read from here in previous videos, it's like we've heard that there's a Sonic Unleashed remaster where they're gonna add Shadow and Knuckles rivals levels. We've heard that there's gonna be a Sonic Unleashed remaster where it has Amy playable as the big expansion, right? We have seen that the game is gonna be Sonic Eclipse and the main 3 characters are gonna be Silver, Sonic, and Shadow going through it, right? We've heard that it's gonna be an open world city, you know, that you go through kind of like this. It's a little bit all over the place, which I don't know. I'm not confident this time around in these rumors. Again, the only reason I entertain them is because on the chance that they are right, and then we look back at it, we're like, damn, bro, we covered that and we talked about that. And it might be real, right? So there is one more, and I think this one is probably the most fake, but let's see. Sonic Racing CrossWorlds DLC, right? Year 2 DLC 2026-2027. Hello Kitty and Friends year. Okay, yeah, no, this is already bullshit. You don't got year 2 and year 3. I'm not. See, this one is too much. Sonic Frontiers sequel, Sonic Heroes remake, Sonic Cafe collection, a compilation game features all Japanese exclusive mobile games. They are never doing this, bro. This would not only be nonsensical, but it's not happening, bro. People are just saying shit to say shit, man. I will say I would be shocked, and I'm excited to know what the next mainline game. Let me know. That's my thing in the comment section below. What do you think the game will be called, right? Like, that's my big thing for you. Is like, you know, after you subscribe to your boy and support the content, you know, let me know, what do you think the game is going to be called? What do you think the nature of it will be? Now, this is just the stuff we've read. We don't know if we're even getting a mainline game. I mean, I feel like people are underestimating the fact that, like, this could still be the buffer year, because there is a big chance, right? And I'm starting to think it is a big chance. Like I said, if we don't get this game announced this month, I think there's a big chance that this year, you know, we might get the teaser for it later in the year. But here's the thing, we are getting a game this year no matter what. We have reached the point with Sonic. It is an annualized franchise, no matter how you see it. Last year we got CrossWorlds. Year before we got Sonic Shadow Gens. Year before was Sonic Superstar. Year before that was Sonic Frontiers. Like, ever since this modern and new era of Sonic, it has become an annualized franchise now. There's always a way, a dev team, a smart style to, you know, bring something out for everybody to play. I think 2021 was actually Sonic Colors Ultimate as well. So we've had something for the last 5 years released for the franchise. So I don't think this year is going to be any different. And with how big Sonic has become, you know, over time, I think we are due for a remaster. But I don't know. I think it's time. If we're thinking chronologically, it is kind of time for like a new release. You know, the last 2 releases have been like a remaster and a racing game. And so I feel like now people are getting hungry for like a main event. And so I feel like it's either gotta be a new 2D game, you gotta either have a new 3D game, or you gotta have, you know, a new 2D game, a new 3D game, or a remake, right? I feel like a remake, you know, the Sonic Heroes remake we've talked about forever and hope for is probably the biggest one that I could think of if they're gonna do it, because it doesn't seem like they're doing adventure remakes from all the interviews we've heard, right? But regardless, something's coming out. We'll say also they did release this thing called we're celebrating Sonic and You. Join us for a Sonic Spirit Week and get ready to share. Who knows, well, you might even be featured on the Sonic page. So this event happening this week also kind of makes me doubtful it might be in a direct, because like, why would you promote this fan thing that they're doing on the same day that you might have a potential game announcement? You know, I feel like they would have saved this for an off week. So that's what makes you think we're not seeing anything at the Nintendo Direct, that we might have to wait the week after for the state of play. All right, let's talk a little bit about Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, because one, Legends Competition Act 2 just ended, and I don't want to say it was a disaster. I think it was better than the first one. I think the first one was a nightmare. You know, the way the points were distributed, the level 4 gadget where people were going crazy and like genuinely ruining runs, like, was brutal. I think no matter what, these Legends competitions are going to bring out the crazy people, the meta people, some of the most brutal races you are going to see, just by the nature of it being a car racer and them wanting it to be for fun. But regardless, I do think that, you know, it was an improvement from the first one, but I do think they need a better award, right? It just saying like round 2 title user, like, is not enough. I would have more flair on the titles or some different ones for the next one. But I did see Puyo Puyo fans actually losing their minds because they are adding a Puyo Puyo sticker to the game. Now, this actually disappointed a lot of Puyo Puyo fans because they really wanted Arle in Sonic Racing, which I still think is possible. You know, I do think it's a little bit doubtful, because I feel like they would have just saved the sticker for when they were, you know, actually gonna make DLC for them. But you know, you never say never. We are still potentially getting year 2 content for this game. So for my Puyo Puyo fans out there, I cheer for you and I hope for the best. Last but not least, I did want to acknowledge this because the Sonic Twitter account actually made an art piece commemorating Sonic 06, right? Showing this new piece of, what's her name? Elise, you know, the grand event of Soliana, the Festival of Flame. Amid the gaze of the entire populace, Princess Elise carries the flame at the altar. Now, I would have not mentioned this had it just been this, but there was an extra art piece. If I can go grab this really quick. So Nakamura Shun, who is a producer at Sega Sonic Team, also dropped this like concept art that was never released for Sonic 06, saying, "Son of Soliana, guide and watch over us with your eternal light." And you know, it just got me thinking a little bit how it's kind of cool to see Sega kind of like, I don't want to say bring back 06, but kind of be a little bit more proud of it, you know, and trying to, I don't know, instead of bury the game forever, you know, because Sonic 06, like, look, for all intents and purposes was like a, you know, mess, right? And everybody hates it. You know, it's the meme of the games industry. It's the most memed game out there. And so seeing Sonic Team and Sega sort of recently kind of have stuff like the Mephiles boss fight, have Kingdom Valley as a level, you know, releasing commemorative artwork, still continuing, you know, to at least have silver available in these modern games. Like, it's very clear that there's a part of Sonic and Sega and Sonic Team that really do care for this game. And I've always wondered, like, what would you do for Sonic 06? You know, to celebrate it one day? Do you just continue to bring elements from it into other stuff? Would they remake it one day with the full vision that they wanted to make with the game? Would they just make a sequel to it in some way? Or would it be left in the abyss? I don't know. But there's something about, you know, seeing this artwork and then seeing like this extra concept art we've never seen that sort of just gives me some kind of like, I don't know, not just hope, but feeling that Sonic Team is like, huh, there's stuff we could do, you know, with these concepts in this world now that we have the time and the tech and the technology, you know, especially like when you think about it, like 06 is a lot of cool fucking ideas, you know, having towns with actual mission NPCs and unlockable upgrades and cool actually main Sonic levels, and the main 3 being playable Shadow Silver is really fucking cool. And we all agree that Sonic 06 is super cool on paper and music thematically and everything. Just obviously a byproduct of a rushed video game, and hopefully we like to see the future of it. I don't know why this news is making the rounds now. This news is from literally November, based on the end of September sales cut. So this is based on like after September 31st of, you know, last year, right? This is not counting the holiday period or everything. So they initially back then said, we recently announced that the worldwide cumulative sales were 1 million. However, initial performance did not meet our expectations, and we are aiming to sell approximately another 1 million units within the fiscal year. We aim to sustain long-term sales by encouraging players to enjoy the game over time through continued support of the title, including ongoing release of additional downloadable content. Again, this was said literally back in November. I don't know why this is being translated now. Some people are saying it's because the Sega report was finally translated in English, but regardless, this is old news, you know, and I do think that the game ultimately is selling well and has sold well over the holidays. I actually grabbed a picture here. This is the NPD. This is the official top 20 best-selling games in the United States for 2025. And if you look here, Sonic Racing CrossWorlds is right there at number 13, which obviously number 13 is not the biggest number ever, but this is just the US for Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. This isn't worldwide, but this is as of end of, you know, this is as of January 3rd, 2026, you know, and it's ahead of stuff like Forza, Red Dead, Flight Simulator, Kingdom Come Deliverance, Kirby Air Riders, Super Mario Galaxy 1, 2, and Marvel Spider-Man. You know, and if you think about which of these would be the new releases, would be Kingdom Come, Kirby Air Riders, and Mario Galaxy, which probably sold a shit ton. So for CrossWorlds to be in that, you know, 13 range here, probably again near 1 million just in the US. I would venture to say after the holidays it's probably nearing 2 million. Now we are actually gonna have a Sega financial report in the next 10 days, so obviously I'll report on that and yeah, about that when it's done. But yeah, I just saw a lot of doom posting and I feel like there's no need to worry. You know, Sonic Racing CrossWorlds came out the same year as a Mario Kart game. You know, despite the game could have been, Sonic Racing CrossWorlds could have factually been the best kart racer ever. It was never going to do Mario Kart World numbers. Mario Kart World was one, bundled with the Switch 2. And it's also, you know, Mario Kart. Every mom and dad in the world is going to pick Mario Kart first and Sonic second. You know, Sonic Racing CrossWorlds was a game that if you don't have a Switch, you would go buy. Or it's the game you go, shit, I might pick that up later, especially if you're a casual and you're not really a hardcore Sonic fan. But I do believe in my heart of hearts that with CrossWorlds, consistent DLC, consistent event, word of mouth, you know, and sales, you know, discounts all the time they're running. They ran a lot of good discounts on the holidays. It was on Amazon's, you know, charts often for physical copies sold. I think it's going to be more than fine. Yeah, so that is going to be it for today. Hopefully, by the time we get our next discussion video with you guys about Sonic, it is going to be with a new game announced. But I really do think that regardless, we are due a game announcement. I really do think whether it's this partner showcase or state of play or a Sonic Central, we're getting something this month. I don't know. I would be shocked if we didn't. And if we didn't, I wouldn't expect something until Sonic's birthday in June. But of course, let me know in the comment section below what you guys all think. What are you most excited for? What am I yapping about? What are you yapping about? And of course, I'll see you all next time. Peace out.